She is. She's not here today.
It's
Correct.
recording.
Okay, welcome. This is our first meeting of the year, special meeting today, February 7th. First of all, I'd just like to welcome newly elected Commissioner Crable to our meetings. Congratulations on your election and welcome.
Thank you.
Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Alan Griffiths,
Here.
Kima Yondell, Elliot Dyer,
Here.
Jeff Crable,
Here.
Louis Schultz,
Here.
Ryan, sorry, he's not on he's not on it anymore. I did not take him
Former
off.
member, Mr. Whaley.
This is a plus.
It says election of officers here. Is that on this meeting?
That's correct, yep, first of the year.
First of the year, we are electing officers.
Congratulations.
We need a nomination for chair and vice chair. We'll start with the chair.
Allen is an outstanding chair. I nominate him.
Second that?
I guess I'll accept the nomination. Do we need a roll call vote on that nomination? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? I won't vote against myself, but our current vice chair is Kima Nandal. Are there any nominations for the vice chair's position?
Is she going to continue?
My understanding is she will, yeah.
Okay. Well, I nominate her
You
then.
miss a meeting?
Yeah.
I would need a second for that.
Second that as well.
Okay. All right, so Kima Nandal is nominated for vice chair, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Review of the November 15th meetings, or November 15th, sorry, meetings are there. Are there any questions on the minutes?
Need a motion to approve?
We do, yes, please.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Second. Any further comment? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 And no opposed. Thank you. Okay, we are moving on. Alec.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item on tonight's agenda is 149 East Water Street. It is for both an illuminated sign and also wall signage. This structure is a contributing building in this downtown Sandusky Commercial Historic District. It was built around 1860. It operated as a grain and supply store for approximately 87 years. It has been minimally altered since its original condition. The Ohio Historic Inventory of 1979 states the following regarding the building's important features, and that's that the rounded arch, second and third story windows with ornate cement braiding over arches, brackets on first floor cornice, metalwork pilasters at doorways. So the project scope is both a second floor wall sign with halo lit channel cutout illuminated background lettering, and then also first floor acrylic lettering signage. The applicant, Family Health Services, proposes to place the sign. It's going to be a black colored metal for the halo illuminated signage, and then it's going to be a white, off-white, cream background that matches the proposed approved previously coloring. The combined evaluation, the signs are not exceeding the dimensions of the current signage requirements, and that includes the wall sign and also the first floor ground wall sign, cut out aluminum letters as well. Staff's determined the signs are of good quality design and simple graphics, simple messages as well. The shape is appropriate, the colors are not fluorescent of either of these signs, and meet the guidelines aside from the halo backlit signage. With no clear administrative approval processes for the halo lit signage, staff has brought this sign to the Landmark Commission for further analysis. The owner did receive a conditional use permit on the January 24th of 2024 Planning Commission meeting to place a sign above the ground floor per the zoning code. And overall, staff supports granting the certificate of appropriateness with the following conditions. That's that all permits are obtained to the building department, engineering department, division of planning, and any other applicable agency prior to any construction of these signs. 2 is that the light sources shall not be of excessive brightness or cause a glare hazardous to pedestrians or auto drivers or objectionable to adjacent residential uses. And 3rd, that the fixture is dimmable, so if it's found to be a nuisance, it can be turned down, and that the light will be a warm tone 3,000 Kelvin or lower white light, amber light, or filtered LED light source. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, are there commissioners have any questions or comments on the application?
Staff recommending approval.
That's correct.
I'll second that.
Okay, I just have one question on the lower signs where it says primary care, behavioral health, pharmacy. Those are not illuminated. That's correct?
That is correct. Those will not be illuminated. There'll be aluminum cutout lettering. It'll just be the aluminum coloring, I believe.
Okay, so I think we have a motion to accept staff's recommendations and a second. Any further discussion?
Second.
If not, clerk call the roll, please.
Louis Schultz,
Aye.
Jeff Crable,
Aye.
Elliot Dyer,
Yes.
Alan Griffiths.
Yes. Thank you and congratulations. A beautiful building coming along nicely. So looking forward to seeing it finished.
I'll say.
So the second item on tonight's agenda is going to be at 186 East Market Street. This is a contributing building in the downtown Sandusky Commercial Historic District. Little history was discovered on this property through staff's research. It was shown that through this image on the screen that it was once a grocery store and also once a jewelry store. It has also been minimally altered since its original condition. This was recently a vacant storefront. The applicant, as part of this application, has leased the space and has recently opened a new restaurant called WTFR, What the Fried Rice. This is the company's second branch of this restaurant, with the first still operating in Toledo. And the applicant is seeking a certificate of appropriateness for signage with a white background, both window signage and also a projecting sign. So the zoning code limits the aggregate area of window signs to an area that will not exceed 25% of each window frame. Currently, the signs provided and per the images are believed to be over 50% roughly of the window itself. Staff has been in conversation with the applicant, and they're willing to replace these windows within a reasonable time frame. And the staff asked the Landmark Commission to consider those zoning standards as part of this application. We'd like to see, ideally, have the background removed completely, because it will also not only meet the Landmark Commission guidelines, but also the zoning code requirements. It would be within reason of 25% of each window. The second sign tonight is the projecting sign. The proposed background color is also white. If you look at the bottom right corner is what it would look like. The applicant was not aware of either of these requirements of not having a white background prior to purchasing and ordering their signs. The Historic Preservation Guidelines says that white background is strongly discouraged in any signage. With no clear administrative approval process, staff brought this sign to Landmark Commission for further analysis tonight. Staff has talked with the applicant explaining the guideline requirements, and the applicant has chosen to proceed with the white background as provided in the application. The proposed designs of the marquee and window signs consist of acceptable designs with simple graphics and simple messages aside from the white background. The shapes are appropriate, the colors are not fluorescent, and their primary colors are not flashy. The guidelines strongly discourage signage with white backgrounds, and then following the Landmarks Commission's decisions in similar cases, staff recommends the following: that we deny the certificate of appropriateness for window signage, asking the applicant to bring forward a design that meets the zoning standards and removes the white background, and submit an updated application for staff approval. And also that staff is not opposed to granting the certificate of appropriateness for the projecting sign, as the size, location, and installation will not overly detract from the historic character of the storefront. There are no recommended conditions to this recommendation, as sign permit applications have already been submitted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. When it comes to part one, talking about the window signage, have there been any discussions with the business owner about the type of signage that could replace what they currently have?
Yes, I have talked with them. They seem to want to move forward with the same type of signage, just from possibly removing the background or making them smaller. I strongly encourage them to just remove the background and therefore open up the windows, as historically speaking, having an open window is more appropriate, as you can see in and see out of the storefront easier, and it attracts more people to the store, and you can see inside. And so that is the direction that staff gave the applicant. As far as I know, they're willing to comply with whatever the Landmark Commission decides tonight.
Great.
And I'll add one comment. Typically, when we measure signage internally, we don't take the full rectangle of the envelope of the signage. We actually measure the square footage of the content. So if they were to remove the background and just have the outlines on the window, it could be the same size if the background was removed and transparent on the window signage.
Understood. Commissioners, any questions? Mr. Crable?
Having spent 40 years, give or take, in part doing signage design, logo development and whatnot, I understand why they're asking for the white background. Take a look just adjacent to the white background, where you have lettering, white and orange lettering. It gets lost. It gets lost just on a dark window, but it gets lost when you have all the reflections of the city around it. If you really want people to know where you are and be easily found, yes, I know there's this, okay? But if you're using your signage for the purpose of wayfinding, you want people to be able to see the logo and the name of the business and whatever. So I completely understand why they're making the ask that they're making.
My thought is that the exterior sign is the one that's going to be the most effective in attracting customers and letting people know where it is. And what the problem I have is, it just says clearly in the guidelines, no white signs. And so, if we start playing around with that, then what good are the guidelines? So I couldn't support the white.
Yeah, my only comment is, Lou, that they are guidelines and not laws.
Yeah.
And
We deal with this all the time, where people come in and they have
Sure.
neglected to bother, and so, in a way, it makes it awkward, but,
Can we parse this out? I appreciate the conversation on the white signs. What I'd like to do is take the two pieces separately. So talking specifically about the window signage first, and then I think we can get on to the blade sign they're proposing for the store signage itself. Elliot, you have any comments or thoughts at the moment on the window signage?
Didn't you say
issue?
that the window sign is already too big as it is? So they'd have to take away the white anyway, or at least shrink it down,
or
or,
downside.
Correct, they'd have to downsize to meet that
Oh.
standard.
but they could keep the same size as that if they maybe inverse the colors or
Correct.
did
And
something like that to kind of
That's-
remove the white, but also take
Yeah.
away some of that percentage.
May I ask a question? Is there a reason, okay, back up half a step. The guidelines say we don't want white backgrounds. Well, what if they came back with a tan background? What if they came back with a gray background? Is that something that then you would be more amenable to?
Through the chair to Mr. Crable, yes, so based on the guidelines, we take that as literal, so white. And I know there's thousands of shades of white, so it is a little bit, and it takes a little bit of intuition to decide like what that exactly means. But in the general sense, we try to avoid white. Now, if you bring like a cream, an off-white, a gray, a tan, that would be considered non-white and would be appropriate.
In this case, can I
Go ahead,
make a
yep.
comment? Thank you. The issue of the signage being too large to the zoning code will necessitate them
Yep.
replacing it regardless. So you have the chance to guide that design on the window signage. My understanding from the design guidelines recommending against white backgrounds is that it does draw your eyes so completely, it distracts from the historic character because you want the architecture to shine. And I think that's why design guidelines tend to shy away from white backgrounds. In this case, the square footage of white, you could get to that. Typically, my understanding of logo design is you almost always also create a all white logo. So they could potentially do an all white, graphic logo that with no background. But I did have another comment on the signage. They have already talked about being willing to replace the signage. Oh, I know, I was going to say, when you cover window signage to a great degree, then you reduce the ability to see inside and out from the windows, which is why I believe the zoning code limits that percentage, and it really adds value to the walkability of downtown when you can, see, when you're sitting inside and you can see out, and when you're outside and you can see in, it helps with the walkability and the character of the downtown. Thank you.
I would just comment too on the window signs, particularly the one on Wayne Street, which currently covers 90% of the window. In order to comply with the zoning code, they would need to reduce that sign
Oh, yeah.
significantly regardless.
Yeah.
So if they're going to have any kind of non-see-through sign, that sign's going to wind up being less than a third of the size of what it currently is.
Right. If I may.
Sure.
You talked about removing the outside white border, okay? You wouldn't have a problem with the white inside the square?
That's correct. So the guidelines specifically call out the background of the sign. So if you have white lettering as an example, or like say like the bowl would be white or the rice is white, that's acceptable as it's the face of the sign, not the background, or the cover area as it specifically calls out. So it's specifically the background can't be white. Parts of the signage can be white.
I would read this white inside the square also as background, but I agree with you that the white of the rice is like a like that's a substantive part.
Yeah,
of
I
it.
wasn't referring to the
Yeah.
white of the rice, but, yeah.
I guess my comment just would be that if you look at the gray and white sign they have to the left, that has white lettering. And if they took that sign, that coloring and applied it to the white sign without any of the white background, you would still get the visibility and meet the compliance side of the code. Anyway, I also just, for me, I think the issue for us as a commission is not what they could redesign the sign as. That's essentially up to them. Our question is, does this application meet the guidelines for certificate of appropriateness for window signage? My personal view is it does not, and I would be minded to vote in accordance with staff's recommendations in that case on this application. I would encourage, assuming that that is the final decision, which is subject to a vote very clearly, I think staff would want to be in conversation with them about options, and certainly white lettering doesn't necessarily violate the guidelines.
I mean, encourage them to resubmit, that we're very open to it. I'll be voting, as you will be. But encourage them to resubmit, and that it can be, they've got to address the size issue first. But then it can, the background issue can be as simple an adjustment as gray.
I think this is important. You look downtown, we got a lot of beautiful buildings. Frankly, I think a lot of the signage is not attractive. There's no consistency. If we don't hold the line at all on signage, next thing you know, it'll look like 250.
Should we, any further comment on part one of the recommendations?
I kind of stay the same way, personally, I think it looked better if it wasn't bright white, because it does kind of take away from the building and you can't even see what inside too. If you're a new business, you want to see what's going on inside, you want to see people in there.
Yep.
And if you just kind of remove the white, and you already have the lettering for the inverse right next to it, you'd be able to keep the size of it too, versus trying to take it away. And even if they shrunk it down and made it gray, it's still kind of defeating the purpose of changing it in the first place.
Okay, can I have a motion on staff recommendation 1, please?
I support the recommendation.
Okay, in a second.
Yes. Support
Okay,
the
so we have a motion to
recommendation.
support staff recommendation to deny the certificate of appropriateness for the window signage as it's presented. Any further comment? If not, Quinn, will you please call the roll?
Ellen Griffiths,
Yes.
Elliot Dyer,
Yes.
Jeff Crable,
Yes.
Louis Schultz.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to staff recommendation 2 is, the staff is not opposed to granting the certificate of appropriateness for the projecting sign as the size and location of its installation will not overly detract from the historic character of the storefront. So this is the blade sign in the bottom right-hand corner of the picture we can see. Any comments, questions as regards staff recommendation number 2, which is saying they're not opposed to us granting this. It differs from they're not also recommending granting it.
I have a comment through the chair, if I may.
Yes, of course.
I just want to make sure that you were aware that the picture was taken, they put up the sign, and we gave them a call, and we're like, hey, we need to take you to landmarks. And they were like, oh, so sorry, is it okay to leave the brackets up? And we're like, absolutely. They did take the sign down, so they were very easy to talk with and work with, and the picture, that was only installed for a hot second before they pulled it back before it came to you.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you ready for a motion?
I just had a quick question.
Yeah, I think there's
First.
probably some comment. Go ahead.
Because this is the first like white sign I've been a part of and voting for, and I know there are some white signs that have been approved in the past. What were some reasonings behind, like, I think it looks great there because it doesn't take away too much. It's perpendicular to the building, so it's not taking away too much. It's not bright and flashy. It's looks good. It's well sized. So what were the reasonings behind accepting other ones? I think Shores and Islands has a white sign.
Aaron, do you want to speak to that, or?
We worked with Shores and Islands. They had their Shores and Islands on the building itself and the blade sign, and they wanted white backgrounds. They worked with us to redesign their primary one on the building to not have a white background, and they really strongly wanted the white background on the blade sign. So we brought that to the commission, and they ultimately approved that. I don't recall the discussion at the table that day.
Through the chair, I have a further comment to Ms. Blair's. So the white marquee sign that Shores and Islands has was the old Segway shop sign, which was grandfathered in because it's been there, it was there for quite some time. So Shores and Islands talked with Brady Signs on what the cost and what really if there was a solution besides white, and like, would it be affordable? And it was not. So because of that, they've moved forward with the white background. As
They refurbished.
They refurbished and kept the white that was previous. That's correct.
I think the broader point too is that the National Historic Guidelines strongly discourage white signs. Is it the National Historic or just ours? That's probably.
It's in our
those-
guidelines as strongly discouraged. I would expect that aligns with national ones, but I haven't gone to check.
Okay. So Sandusky Preservation Design Guidelines strongly discourage white signs for the reasons that Aaron mentioned earlier, just in terms of detracting from the overall historic nature of the building. This commission has approved a white sign, certainly for Shores and Islands, for the reasons given. There are other white signs in downtown Sandusky, including right across the street at O Supply, and I don't recall if that sign was approved or not. It may well have been. So there have been white signs that have been approved. They're not encouraged, they're actively discouraged. So, Mr. Schultz, any comments? Mr. Crable, any comments? Nope, okay. Can I have a motion? I'll need a motion either way to either grant or not grant a certificate of appropriateness on the proposal. Mr. Crable.
I would move to accept the staff recommendation that it's appropriate and that we grant approval.
So staff's recommendation is that they're not opposed to granting it. They're not saying it's appropriate. So I think we need to say either way that we approve or not.
Then my motion amended is that we approve the
the signage? We have a second.
Second.
Any further comment? Just for clarity, a yes vote is to approve the white sign as it's depicted. A no vote is to send it back to them for something that is not white. Okay, hearing no further comment, Quinn, would you please call the roll?
Elliot Dyer,
Yes.
Louis Schultz,
Yes.
Alan Griffiths,
Yes.
Jeff Crable.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And then we have, moving on, we have 3 administrative approvals, which I will let Mr. Oakes talk us through, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first administrative approval is at 1119 West Washington Street. It's for masonry rehabilitation. As you know, a driver had struck this building and left a big hole in the side of where the Joe Sunday Better Half mural was. I drive by this regularly. This has been fixed, at least the hole. There's still some work going on with, I believe, some of the window sills. But all in all, it looks really good. They plan on repainting it. So staff reviewed this. Based on everything, I talked with the contractor, I talked with the owner. Their plan from the beginning was to replace everything like for like. Luckily, nothing was too damaged, especially the window sills. Those have been a lot harder to replace. None of them were damaged to the point they'd have to replace them. So a lot of it was actually just the brickwork. Looking at it and looking on site and talking with both the applicant and the contractor, there's actually 3 or 4 layers of brick. So they reused some of those layers from the backside of this building, and then that's what they used to redo the facade. So even the brick that's there is still original, it's just not the facade brick. So this was reviewed by staff, and this was given an administrative approval on October 2nd of 2023 with the following conditions, and that's that all applicable permits were obtained through the building department, engineering department, division of planning, and any other applicable agency prior to any construction. And the second condition was that the restoration work mimics the previous design of the building's exterior character. The second administrative approval is for 136 East Market Street for a storefront renovation and signage. There was little history on this building, so I couldn't really find any historic photos even, but the applicant is replacing the entire storefront, very similar to the 2 stores to the west. So it's Lakeland Design Boutique and MW Design are the 2 current tenants of the similar storefronts. It's almost identical to these 2, black facade, black aluminum trim, everything is black and the matte black look. So this was reviewed based on the fact that it's so similar to the 2 similar cases that the board has approved previously. Staff consider this a minor change that has been consistently approved, and we approved it administratively. So this was reviewed by staff and approved, I'm losing the date here, there it is, on November 29th of 2023 with the following conditions. And that's that all applicable permits are obtained through the building department, engineering department, division of planning, and any other applicable agency prior to any construction of that storefront and signage. Signage, same thing. We administratively approved that based on it. It meets all the standards, good color, appropriate color, good language, not fluorescent, not a white background. So we approved that with the same application as the storefront.
And that work has been complete since, if you haven't seen it,
Looks good.
sure to walk by.
Perfect, thank you. I have to say that vlog is coming along, as they say, compared to a number of years ago.
Yeah, one more.
I'm sorry, we have one more. Yep.
No worries. So 305 East Water Street, this is for a deck expansion. In staff's opinion, the proposed deck meets the interior standards and also the Sandusky design guidelines standards. Specifically, the following porches should be installed in simple design and detail. The woodwork is appropriate material. The wiring of the railing is appropriate, has been approved and reviewed in previous cases. Staff believe this to be a minor change as a previous deck was approved as well. So this will be for the bandstand specifically, not seating area for the restaurant. So space at this location has been hard to creatively come up with. So this was a solution to create some more space for the people coming to the restaurant and the bar there. So staff believe this to be a minor change, and we approved this project on November 15th, 2023 with the condition that all necessary permits are obtained prior to any construction. Excuse me. Thank you.
I'll also mention this one is not part of, it's not a permanent structure, it's it's a temporary structure, so it almost works like a patio fixture, but technically any site changes need approval, so we ask them to please submit an application for that one.
Very good. Do we have any other business today?
That's everything on our
Other
list.
business for me.
So just to say, first of all, thank you to commissioners for coming tonight for this special meeting. We will have a regular February meeting on February 21st with a number of items on that agenda, including the presentation of our reworked, revamped, redone design guidelines, procedures. Commissioner Crable, I know you've had a chance to see those.
Yes, we were just talking
Okay,
about them earlier.
perfect. So those will come up at our next meeting in a couple of weeks.
And we'll focus on that presentation on just the changes that have made since the last draft, because you've already seen it's almost like a 90% draft. There's just been a few changes since then. It's substantially the same document as you reviewed prior.
Perfect. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You do a very good job on one of these meetings. You really do.
I can